Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. As typical, at least recently, I know that I've done this with quite a few videos recently. This is a precursor to the video. So I already made the video and this is just an add-on that I'm putting before you hear the video. I just, for clarity's sake, want to tell you what the video is about, because as usual, I talk about several different things that are all connected and correlated in the upcoming clips. So I just want to clearly tell you what the video is about. And then also there's like 3 corrections that I wanted to add in. So the video is about me not getting my deposit today for food stamps. It's the first, and I did not get my deposit. And then when I went to the store, the grocery store this morning, I saw somebody from my past that I mentioned in one of my recent videos. The person crossed in front of my vehicle and was wearing gang stalking colors. Also, when I left that store due to seeing this person, I went to a store on the other end of the island. As I was pulling up to the store, a fire truck drove by me. So I'm just trying to figure out, is the reason why I didn't get my food stamps due to the videos I made? Because if it is, that's major gaslighting. But that's what I'm going to discuss in the video. You're just going to hear me talking about what occurred with my food stamps prior to me getting to today, where I didn't get the deposit, because there were some events that occurred before today. And then also you're going to hear me expound on my prior experience with this person that was wearing the gang stalking colors, and why it would be gaslighting to use him or even the videos I made recently as an excuse to not give me my stamps on time. Also, I wanted to, like I said, make a correction. So let me go over to my text messages. In the video, y'all, you're going to hear a little bit of rambling and stammering. It's not as bad as some of the recent vids. I've done a lot better, y'all. I've recently been having issues with, I don't want to say speaking coherently, but with stammering and stuttering, and it would almost seem as if I have a speech impediment. And the irony is, I don't want to say irony. It's not really irony. It's more so a coincidence rather than irony. If you look up the definition of irony, it's not truly irony. People use irony out of context. It's coincidental. But coincidentally, one of the things that they use in my targeting as sensitization is stuttering, because of an experience I had with someone from my past who had a stutter. So it's coincidental that now, due to direct energy weapon attacks, I myself am having somewhat of a emulated speech impediment. So anyways, in the part of the video, you're going to see me showing you all the long-term effects of direct energy weapon attacks. And while I'm reading those long-term effects, you're going to see 2 simple words that I try to read that I stutter over. You have to know it's the technology and brain fog, because they love to use these moments to bully me with the technology. You know, they can send you sensitization via the technology. That's one of the links located in the description box and comment section. In the next clip, y'all will hear me do my typical intro, where I tell y'all to check out the links in the description box and comment section. Anyway, one of the links, or several of the links in the description box and comment section, talks about shadow networking, which is a form of technology, AI based, that they use to hack all your technological devices and send you things with sensitization in it to sensitize you. It's high science stuff, y'all. Anyway, so sometimes they'll send videos in my recommended on YouTube kind of bullying, insinuating that I have some sort of speech impediment, or that I can't speak, or I can't read, things that are obviously not true, especially as someone that was an English teacher teaching honor students. I said this already, y'all. When I left the school, when I resigned, the honor teacher for 11th grade, this was prior to me sharing offensive content. I keep saying I'm sure she regrets doing this. She's white, y'all. And if you're familiar with my targeting, you'll know that one of the reactive abuse reactions that I had when I tried to relocate off island and was staying in my car in Florida was to share offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda. So I'm certain at this point now she's probably like, damn it, why did I say this? I know she's probably pissed she said this, but it really helped me out. Her just that little simple comment or compliment as a form of validation of the life I lived. She told my mom, who is also a teacher, a chemistry teacher, she told my mom, tell your daughter thank you for teaching the students MLA format, because the students left my class and they were able to write MLA format papers in her class. They were prepared for her class. All right. Anyways, y'all. So just know that I know how to read and I know how to speak. I'm dealing with brain fog, trauma, direct energy weapon attacks, etc. So anyway, there's a point in the video you're going to hear when you watch and listen to the video where I'm reading the effects, the long-term effects of direct energy weapon attacks. And I mispronounced or I misread the word diffuse. I said diffuse. And then also coordination. I said coordination instead of coordination. It's just a hot mess, y'all. And then also when I'm discussing the government shutdown, which might be the reason I didn't get my food stamps, but you're going to hear why that doesn't make sense either, y'all. Or if that is what's going on, how it's still some sort of something going on because I didn't get the check that I heard. If the shutdown did proceed, there was some sort of check that was supposed to go out to all of the households in the Virgin Islands, and I didn't get the check. So something's going on, y'all. And I saw, like I said, the gang stalking stuff I saw this morning, so I'm concerned. But anyway, there's a part in the video where I talk about Trump's decision to shut down the government and stop funds temporarily. I said it was ruled over. I meant to say overruled. I think in the Superior Court, the Supreme Court, excuse me, I think it was overruled. They said a judge overruled what he was trying to do. So I just wanted to make those two corrections. And then also, as I was discussing the food stamp thing, what I just talked about, the fact that I didn't get my deposit and the fact that it might be due to the government shutdown, I said in the next video, you're going to hear me say that I didn't get my letter in the mail. I meant to say I didn't get my paper check. Because if it did proceed, there, according to what Google is saying, everyone in the Virgin Islands that has food stamps or is supposed to receive food stamps was supposed to receive a paper check in the mail with half of their benefits. I didn't get that. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, y'all. And so that's what the video is about. Me just discussing not getting my food stamps and then seeing some gang stalking activity this morning and wondering, is this a targeted individual thing or a misunderstanding? All right, so that's it, y'all. I just wanted to add this precursor to the video. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace out. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sharifa, and my poetry name is New Lily. If you're new to my channel, please check out the links located in the description box and comment section. And in both locations, you'll find an identical set of links that lead to videos that talk about what started my targeting in 2020, as well as links that lead to videos that share information about the targeted individual program, information about the tactics used on targets, information about the technology used on targets, and information about the program in general, y'all. I have another rant. This is rant part 3. I already made a part 1 and a part 2. This is part 3, y'all. Hold on, somebody's on the porch. Let me just let the person. Okay. Yeah, this is part 3, y'all. Because this is something it's now not just harassment or me reacting to antagonization. It's now monetary. As you know, things happen with targets all the time. Let me not assume, right? I'm trying really hard not to assume that that's what's going on, because they have this way where things will happen and they'll do stuff, and if I assume that they did it, then they'll use that as validation to do it or do more, or something will be happening and they'll do stuff to make me feel like they're behind what's happening, and then if I like act accusatory towards them, though I'm targeted, then they'll full throttle do whatever. So I have to be careful how I word things and how I do things. But as y'all can see, it's November 1st, and I was supposed to get my food stamps today. Right now, y'all, I'm on unemployment, and I'm on food stamps. I'm receiving food stamps. These are all due to the targeting. The one job that I do have, which is doing security at night, reduced my hours significantly. The post that I used to work, no longer available. However, I did get a call from them letting me know that they're going to train me for a new position. So that's something I'm grateful for. So that's something I'm looking forward to. So it's not like I'm not trying to complain on my current employer. That's not what this video is about at all. I'm just letting you know right now it's rough, as usual. You know how it is for targets. I told y'all what's been going on with the day job situation. Like, I've been applying to jobs like crazy. That's been the last 3 years. And the only jobs that actually gave me an opportunity were the security job that I'm working right now, the night shift security job, and the correction officer job. There were hints at me teaching again. Twice it's happened where I was given false hope and it seemed like I would be teaching again, and then like the mat was pulled from underneath me. I'm not trying to sound negative. I'm literally telling you what happened. It was worse 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I even got called into the school I don't have a tiff with them. This is a vicarious situation, and I understand likely their hands are tied anyways. Like, this is a vicarious situation, so I'm not complaining on my former employers. I didn't have a bad experience with them. I was just dealing with a bad life experience at the time when I was working for them. I was targeted. That's what led to me resigning from the position in the first place. Them even calling me in, I'm grateful for them even doing that, because they didn't even have to do that. It seems like they were at least considering giving me a chance. So I'm grateful and I'm not complaining. But I'm just letting you know how it works when you're targeted. It's like things are blocked up, and jobs you used to be able to get, you can no longer get, or it's extremely difficult to get. So about 2 years ago, y'all know I made a video about it. The video's still on my channel. Let me see. Let me go to it. I think I took it down, actually, y'all. I think I was so upset I took it down. I think I took the video down. Yeah, I did. I took the video down. But when I had first gotten back on island in 2023, it was the end of 2022 when I came back. I left summer of 2022, tried to relocate. I didn't know I was a target at the time. I just knew something weird was happening because I sent the text in 2020. So for 2 years, if you listen to my story, y'all will be familiar with all of these details. For 2 years, I was here on island dealing with targeting. It wasn't to the level that it is now. I was at least able to hold down 2 jobs, etc., but a lot was going on. It even impeded or affected my performance when I was working that position as a teacher. Not when we were virtual, but when I went back in the building. Remember, I told you I taught for 2 years down here. And luckily for me, and the only reason I say luckily is because I was targeted at the same time. A lot was going on in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. COVID was happening and I was targeted. I didn't know I was targeted yet, though. I didn't learn until I tried to relocate off island in 2022. Anyway, for the first year and a half, we taught virtually. So that worked in my favor as a target. But then for the latter half a year, for that second half a year, for that second year, the latter half of year, my last half a year teaching, we went back in the building. And that was where the performance suffered. At that point, too, the targeting had started amping up. I was aware of the fact that I was being watched on camera. I was not even comfortable staying in my apartment. There were rough campaign noises on the road while I was teaching, etc., etc. So my performance started suffering. I got in multiple car accidents. I resigned from my teaching position. Prior to us going in the building, I got a good rating. I was given a good rating by my assistant principal, and I was given honor classes. And they're making the rooster sound. They know everything that took place. Anyway, so nonetheless, y'all, long story short, I ended up resigning and leaving island. When I went up to the States, the targeting blew up, came back to the island, and things were different, obviously. So nonetheless, when they called me into the school, I had this anxious reaction because of what I had experienced when I tried to relocate off island. If you listen to my story, again, y'all will know what I'm talking about. When they actually called me into the school, this was in 2023, when I got back on island, I was trembling. I was shaking. I was anxious. I used to hug my students. Before I tried to relocate off island, they used to be, Miss Nurse, in the hallway and run and give me hugs. They saw this on camera. The students were hugging me. I wasn't shaking and acting like a strange person. This is all PTSD and trauma. Anyway, now it's to the point where, you know, like I'm trembling around teenagers. Like, it's just weird stuff that I never dealt with. It's trauma. Anyway, so when I got there, there was a police car that was driving by real slow. And at this time, again, I was still sensitized and just PTSD, man, because of what I experienced when I tried to relocate. If you listen to my story, you'll hear what happened, y'all. Anyway, so long story short, I didn't hear back from them. After that meeting with the assistant principals and the principal for the school, I did not hear back from them. So that was that. I was in my head, took teaching out of the window. I took it out of my head and I was looking for different avenues where I could be successful. That's what I was looking at. And a lot of things were blocked up, impeded. Actually, there's a video. I don't want to play that and then that happens to me. I mean, that is what's been happening, but it's not been as severe. They did start to release and unblock some things, right? But I came across this Target's video last night and I was like, oh my God, this is what's been happening to me. I was even complaining about it recently in a video. Let me just play this video for y'all. This fellow Target. I just came across her video last night. I was just looking up how to get out of the targeted individual program and her video popped up where she's telling you her experience, you know, that your monetary blockages can happen, sabotaging at times, or situations where it's hard for you to succeed in a job, etc., etc. Your love life is blocked up. All this she was saying. Hold on, let me play it for you. I just watched that video last night. How am I now I don't see it in my recent videos? That's odd. Or maybe it was a short. Hold on, y'all. It might have been a short. This happens all the time, y'all, where I'll watch a video and then it's gone. I think it might have been a short though. Hold on. There it is. It was a short.
5 ways gang stalkers dismantle their targets' lives and discredit them so no one believes them when they ask for help.
And again, y'all, I need you to understand my targeting is a unique one. So it's not a no one believes. I'm on a small island where, to my knowledge, this has never happened before. No one has been targeted, at least not the way that I'm being targeted. And everyone on the island knows. It's viral. Everyone has access to the cameras. So it's a unique situation with me. It's not like this situation where it's certain people wouldn't believe you, like you're made to look schizophrenic to those that are left out of the loop. In my targeting, everyone knows, and not everyone gets involved, but everyone knows. So it's not a thing where they don't believe me. It's more so like gaslighting and not acknowledging that it's happening, but it's blatantly happening. It's hard to explain it, y'all. I have an extremely unique targeting case. You have to listen to my videos.
1, they isolate their target. I don't know what they say to friends and family and everyone in your immediate circle, but they get everyone away from you. People either take part in setting you up for, I don't know what, bribes or positive reinforcement and getting to be a part of the group, the cool kids. I really don't know. But people in your life, they either set you up or they get away from you. There's no in between, and you are completely socially ostracized and isolated, both personally and professionally. 2, a wicked smear campaign. The smear campaign helps to dismantle the target's life because it isolates the victim. It ostracizes the victim, both professionally and personally, so it disables.
Y'all, if you listen to my Rant Part 2 video, you're going to hear me talking about specifically what she's talking about, where it would almost seem like with the technology, at least, trying to discredit me. They weren't doing it just now. When I was talking about the principal and how she gave me a good rating, they were chirping, like, agreeing with me. But, I mean, it's the technology, too. They program the AI and then it does whatever. But that's a tactic that's used on all targets from the research I've done. Even high-profile targets like Eric Snowden, who worked for the Patriot Act. He was talking about that. Martin Luther King. I hate to bring up anybody that had like a racial past, but I just saw a video about COINTELPRO and they were talking about what they did to Martin Luther King and how it was like this smear campaign to discredit him. So if you listen to my part 2 video, you'll hear some of the tactics they've used on me to discredit me. Anyway.
Careers, it disables relationships, friendships, the ability for the target to meet a significant other and date and fall in love and get married. 3, financial abuse. So gang stalkers are going to make it so that you cannot make money. They are going to block every effort that you make to make money. They will file for...
That was me in 2023. Everything was blocked. That's why I was shocked when I even got called into the school that I used to teach at. I think they were going to try to give me an opportunity. It was just like the anxiety and the way I was reacting. I understand the complication with it. I understand. So I wasn't upset with them. But other than that, everything was blocked. Only recently, like I want to say this year, the end of last year, did they start like loosening up and opening certain doors. So I'm not going to, I have been given certain opportunities. I thank the Most High. It hasn't been just a complete blockage like how it was. But I can empathize and relate to what she's saying because that does happen.
Fraudulent lawsuits to end careers. They will file fraudulent court orders. They will plant customers to come into your life and complain to your boss. They will mass report, monetize social media accounts so that you can't make money on social media. They will turn your debit and credit card.
That's true. I created a Fiverr in 2023 and I tried to start a writing business. I also tried to create a transcriptionist business because I saw a lot of people were becoming transcriptionists and working from home. Another thing I tried to do was become a developer. I taught myself how to code. I showed you on my portfolio. It's on this channel. There's a video. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see the thumbnail and you'll see like a picture, my profile picture in the middle of the screen. And there's like a pink backdrop. I started teaching myself how to code so I could work from home. And even that was difficult. They were taking the current. A lot was going on back then. It's a lot better now. So I just want to be careful with what I'm saying. I don't want things to get that bad again. Things were real bad when I just got back on island. That's all I'm going to say. But I did create a portfolio and I tried to become a developer. I was teaching myself back-end coding, front-end coding, and I was trying to become a full-stack developer where I could work the back and the front end. Because I realized that those not just a developer, I wanted to be a developer and a programmer. And I realized that those people make a lot of money and you can work from home. You can work remotely. You're extremely valuable if you know the skill of coding. We're in the technological age, y'all. That's what targeting is about. It's all technology. This is the technological age that we're in. So it would help if you learn like the stuff that Elon Musk and people like that, you want to learn that type of stuff. It's a good skill to have. In fact, I keep telling myself I'm going to get back to it because I started teaching myself. I learned CSS, HTML, and I started learning JavaScript. So basic programming. And I made a web page. So that's what I was trying to do. And I saw that you can make a lot of money doing it. But a lot of stuff was happening and I eventually got discouraged from doing that as well.
It's on and off so that you can't purchase groceries except for when they allow you to purchase them. They will turn your debit card on and off so that sometimes it will work at the ATM so you can withdraw cash and other times it won't. You'll call your bank and your bank will say, well, there's nothing wrong on our end. 4, legal abuse. If you're gang stalked, you are going to be dragged through the legal system, both civilly and criminally, on multiple different offenses and multiple different court orders, because the way that they do this, it's a slow burn, right? Like they don't just slam everything all at once. They do it over time to create a paper trail and make it look like you're this menace to society. And they have...
No, it's true though, y'all. Again, my targeting is unique and I'm in a small community, but also I've advocated for myself and I've kept my own paper trail. And so that's what you'll see in the recent videos and also prior videos that I made. I keep making the point that prior to 2020, in the last video, the Rant part 2 video, you'll hear me saying this, that prior to 2020 when my targeting started, I hadn't even gotten a speeding ticket. And then in the first 2 years of my targeting, 3 back-to-back car accidents. At this point now, I've been in my 4th car accident. At the beginning of this year, I got a few months ago, I got in my 4th car accident. And for a while with the technology, they were painting this false narrative that I was a reckless driver and I was this and I was that. They were even pushing in drunk driving. So I was so glad when the 4th accident happened and I had just gotten back from the gym and all I had in my system was protein shake. So I said, how's this for drunk driving? You know, and I used that accident as an example and a reference to show what happens with the distraction while you're driving and you're being targeted. And so to be funny with the technology, this is what they do sometimes. They'll make a joke when I make a good point, right? Or they'll start to deflect. Anyway, so they start sending people taking shots of protein shakes at the bar. But the point is, that's what I'm trying to tell you. For the first 2 years of my targeting, after age 28, and I've been driving since age 15, by the way, y'all, so you can understand. Over a decade of driving, not even a speeding ticket. And then in the first 2 years of my targeting, 3 back-to-back car accidents. You can look at this is a TMI, but I had to talk about it in recent videos anyway, which this is what I'm making the video for anyway, to talk about something that took place this morning, because I mentioned this person when I was talking about my prior, it's hard to say, but I have to say it, y'all. When I was talking about my history, my sexual history, it's so embarrassing having to talk about these things, but I had to defend myself. Because with the technology, they were insinuating horrible stuff. So as usual, I felt the need to defend myself. And then, of course, then you get gaslit for defending yourself. Similar to what I was saying, or what she's saying, where certain things happen after the targeting, and then you get painted as a menace. When these are all reactions and or effects of the targeting. It's like they have an issue with cause and effect when it comes to the targeting. They don't look at the cause. They just look at the effect and make it seem like that's the cause. Does that make sense? You know, you have cause and effect. You have something that happens, the cause, and then what results from that cause is the effect. They're just looking at the effect, your monstrous reactions, you acting out of character, you seeming like a menace to society when really all of this is reaction to abuse, rather than focusing on the cause of your change in demeanor. Instead, they'll paint it like this is you and like you're this menace when you have a history of living a good life. Typically, most of us have been successful people. Most of us have been straight-laced, haven't ever gotten into trouble. A lot of the targets I've come across, that's the story. They actually make it a joke now. And they purposely send me stuff with the technology about people that did like some crazy outrageous crime and they had no history of getting into trouble. They keep doing that now to be funny. Anyway, y'all, so to get back to the point though, because I went off on a major tangent. That's how it is when you're targeted. It's like all these things happen to you. These abuse tactics, these traumatizing things. And then you start acting out of character. And then you get painted as a monster when it should be obvious that the reason you're acting this way is because of the experience. Because of what's happening to you. If you listen to that Rant Part 2 video, I was telling y'all about the movie Weapons. Check it out. It's on Hulu. I was like, thank God. When the movie came on, they were showing this teacher. And she was getting into trouble, right? The whole town was attacking her for something that wasn't her fault. If you watch the movie, you'll realize that it had nothing to do with her. Anyway, the whole town was attacking her. And the first thing she did, and I'm not justifying this. I'm not saying you should go out and get drunk or smoke crack or do drugs if you're a target. But some targets do. That's the worst decision you can make because there's already this smear campaign going on. So this further validates the excuse to do the things that they're doing to you, and it paints you as a monster, this reckless person that's out there getting drunk and high. It's the worst thing you can do. I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just saying your mental state and dealing with trauma can lead you to act out a character. I'm not doing that. I didn't fly and drink and get pissy drunk, thank the Most High, but I'm just telling you that can happen. So this teacher in the movie Weapons, if you check out, like I said, the Rant 2 video, you'll hear me talking about this, right? And how I was relating to her character. And when I started pointing out what I was pointing out, oh my God, they started attacking me with the technology. They started attacking my looks. I'm like, what does that have to do with the point I'm making right now? Like, what the heck? I'm like, you know I'm making a good point. You're attacking my looks? Like, what does this have to do? Anyway, whatever the case is. So with the teacher, she was an elementary school teacher. And all her students disappeared out her classroom. Not while she was teaching the class. I could see if that's what happened. If while under her care they disappeared. Then I would say attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it was like an alien invasion and it wasn't her fault. Let's say she was sitting in the classroom and the door was closed and an alien came and abducted all the children and everyone in the town attacked her and it wasn't her fault. I would even understand that more. I'd be like, okay, unfortunate for her. This ain't looking good. You know, I can understand why they're attacking her and why they're not understanding that this isn't her fault. What happened is even worse. The students for her class were home. It was like midnight or maybe 1 a.m., something like that. The wee hours of the morning. And I'm not going to tell y'all the movie. You need to watch the movie. It's a psychological thriller and there's an element of horror there. So understand there's something creepy that went on that had nothing to do with her. But all the children got up in the middle of the night and left their parents' home and disappeared. And so in the morning, the parents wake up and realize their children are gone. And so when they put it together in the morning time, they realized that it was all the students for this one teacher's classroom. And there's a reason why that happened. Again, y'all need to watch the movie. Nonetheless, the town turned against the lady. Yes, they think it's her fault. She was a witch. They start writing witch on her car. They felt like she had something to do with it. So she, from the trauma, started acting out of character. She went straight to the liquor store and bought 3 bottles of vodka and went home and started drinking hard vodka, straight, no chaser. She was squeezing lime in it, and I think she put a little water. Vodka straight. And then one of the people that was harassing her, she thought was knocking on the door. She said, "I'm going to get you, you fucker." When she ran outside, she was cussing things. She said, "I'm going to get you, you fucker." Does that sound like how a teacher would talk? Crass like that? Vulgar? Throughout the whole movie, the lady was cussing like a sailor. She made risky sexual decisions. She had sex with a married police officer. She was acting completely out of character. There's a reason why in the courtroom, when you have people that have committed heinous crimes, now I haven't even committed a heinous crime. I'm just saying I act out of character. They're supposedly persecuting me for these offensive reactions I have, the words that I say. You have people who have chopped heads off, excuse me, not to sound so violent, but I'm just saying I've done crazy crimes, crazy stuff. And they're given an opportunity to be evaluated by a psychiatrist or a psychologist to see if they were mentally sane or stable when they made the decision that they made. Because mental health plays a part in the decisions that you make. God forbid you might have lost somebody close to you at that time and you started acting out of character. You went off and it's called temporary insanity. The term exists for a reason. So if you're living a normal life and then you get thrown into the targeted individual program and all these people are attacking you and you're being watched on camera and you're being followed and you're not getting a moment of peace and you're dealing with people all day long 24/7 and following you on the road, you don't think that's going to affect the way you act? Prior to 2020, I had only had 2 partners, 2 consensual partners. There was a rape that took place in my early 20s. I talked about it in these recent videos. I'm not going to talk about it again. So I had 3 partners from age 21 when I lost my virginity. Excuse me, y'all. Again, I know this is a TMI, but I'm making a point. Because they sent me this weird thing with the technology hinting at recording one of my sexual encounters. And that's what led to me making those videos that you saw me make where it was called Sex Tape Scandal. You think I would talk about that stuff? I had to defend myself. Anyway, so prior to 2020, from the age 21 to 28, I only had 3 partners. The guy that took my virginity, I had multiple encounters with him. He was my boyfriend. The rape that I don't count, it was 1 encounter. And then another boyfriend in 2018, years later, in 2018, 2 years before my targeting started, this guy from my church, I've talked about him in prior videos too, in those sex scandal videos I talked about him. Even though we were together, I had sex with him only 2 times. After 2020, when the targeting started, in the span of 2 years, 4 partners. And 2 of them were not relationships. You mean to tell me that you're not going to take the targeting into consideration? You don't think that had something to do with it? I just had this major shift in personality and I started playing bumper cars on the road and just doing whatever. I'm cussing like a sailor. I've been trying to work on it. I'm dealing with antagonization 24/7. I used to not cuss, especially not the way I'm doing it now. I'm cussing like a sailor and I'm getting told that I'm acting unprofessional. What it is manic. I'm acting manic. And it's a reaction to abuse and antagonization and a lack of peace, a lack of mental peace and stability. Anyways, y'all, nonetheless, I'm done. I'm off the soapbox. So the gaslighting is too much for me with the targeting. It's so much gaslighting, dude. I can't take it. Anyway, so let me get to the point of this video, y'all. Let me come off of this video with her. I'm subscribed to her, so I totally empathize with her. As a matter of fact, y'all, because I know I have the tendency to go off on tangents, let me listen to what I've said so far, and then I'm going to come back and finish the video. I always do this. Let me listen to what I said so far, and then I'm going to come back and tell you what the video's about. All right, y'all, I'm back. So let me talk about what the point of this video is, y'all. The point of this video is to talk about the fact that I didn't get my food stamps today, and I was supposed to. So again, going back to that topic or that point of monetary trouble. And I don't know if this is due to the targeting or not. It's just something I saw when I went outside the store. I saw a person wearing sensitizing colors, a person I mentioned in one of these recent videos. Actually, the videos I just talked about in the last clip, the part 1 and part 2, sex tape scandal videos. Y'all, I'm going to finish this video in a minute. There's noise outside, and so I'm going to wait till that subsides and I can finish the video peacefully. But when I come back, I'm going to talk about the person that I saw, the interaction I had with that person. I'm not going to say names. And how it's gaslighting to use that person of all people as a gang stalker with sensitizing colors, as if this is, them hinting to me. That's why, if that's what, y'all, one thing I've said recently, I'm glad this happened, all the stammering. I've had major brain fog, y'all, recently. It's so bad. I don't want to say formulate coherent sentences. That's a reach. But I stammer all over my words. If you were to listen to my recent videos, you would think I had some sort of speech impediment. I don't. I was stuttering and stammering over the word unemployment. And they take moments like these and with the technology try to insinuate that I can't speak or I can't read. All a part of the discrediting smear campaign. Listen to my videos. They're well put together. They're organized. And I use evidence to back up the things that I'm saying always. I know how to speak, y'all. I don't have a speech impediment. But it's so much trauma and anxiety. And also I'm dealing with technology as well. DEWs, direct energy weapons. It's to the point where I can't swallow my food without having liquid to the side, or I could possibly choke. I've been complaining for years about them using the Havana syndrome direct energy weapon on me. And what it does is it causes some sort of dysphagia, this off and on dysphagia. I have bouts of dysphagia and sleep apnea due to the technology. I made a video about it at the end of 2023. See the thumbnail with the person look like they're struggling to breathe and it says sleep apnea? See, it says a year ago, but it was actually 2 years ago. I made it December of 2023. Anyway, I'm having the same issue now. Like, it comes and goes. It's not like this consistent thing. That's how I know it's the technology. And it's typically whenever they're using it on me consistently, I start having this thing where I'm having trouble swallowing. Another symptom is brain fog. So almost similar to a stroke victim that's learning how to talk again. I know what I want to say, but it's coming out in this stammery, jumbled mass. I can't explain it, and I have to tell myself, slow down, Sharifa, so I can say what I need to say clearly and enunciate my words. I don't have a problem with speaking. I've never had an issue with speaking. I don't have a speech impediment. It's the technology, and the other day, I said, let me look this up. I wanted to see what some of the symptoms of DEWs, direct energy weapons, DEWs, IEDEW, That's an acronym for direct energy weapons. I just looked up the other day some of the symptoms. And what I saw was brain fog and confusion. That's one of the long-term effects if they use it on you over a long period of time, where you can't formulate thoughts clearly. Or you can formulate the thoughts, you know what you want to say, but it's coming out in this jumbled, stammering mess. Hold on, let me show you. Like, there's a lot of levels to the targeting of trauma. It's not even just that you're dealing with PTSD from the social aspect or that realm, the physical aspect of things. You're also dealing with the physical aspect of things, y'all. Like, I'm talking technology, things that can actually harm you. And you have somebody making noise. The most I'm gonna deal with that. To do that to somebody innocent. I'm hearing somebody stomping the foot. Because I sent a text message 6 years ago, I deserve to get hit with energy weapons? That's abusive and crazy. Anyway, so let me show y'all some of the symptoms. Symptoms of a directed energy weapon attack can include an acute onset of neurological issues such as pressure in the head. That happens to me all the time, y'all. I talk about this all the time. When they're using the hum on me, I start feeling like I'm getting a headache and I start having shortness of breath. I tell y'all this all the time. You hear me say that. I've been saying it for years in videos. Y'all, I'm sorry if I'm sounding winded. They're humming on me. Anyway, so symptoms of directed energy weapon attack can include an acute onset of neurological issues such as pressure in the head, disorientation, and vertigo, along with auditory symptoms like a perceived loud noise. It's also called tinnitus, y'all, the noise in your ears. Y'all, there's loud noises going on now. Y'all, give me a minute. There's noise going on right now. So let me read that again, y'all. So symptoms of a directed energy weapon attack can include an acute onset of neurological issues such as pressure in the head, disorientation, and vertigo, along with auditory symptoms like a perceived loud noise, i.e. tinnitus, y'all. They're referring to tinnitus. More chronic symptoms can include headaches, balance problems, cognitive difficulties, and vision changes. Acute and immediate symptoms: auditory phenomena, a loud piercing or high frequency sound described as chirping, clicking, or screeching sound. Pressure and pain, intense pressure or vibrating sensation in the head with air or diffuse head pain. Dizziness, vertigo, and problems with balance and coordination. You think I can't read the word coordination? This is what I'm trying to tell you, y'all. You think I can't read the word coordination as a prior English teacher? This is what I'm trying to tell you. Visual disturbances, blurred vision, sensitivity to light, or even temporary blindness. Other, nausea, difficulty breathing. Remember, I was just telling you I get the shortness of breath. And general systemic discomfort. Chronic and longer term symptoms. This is the one I'm scared of, y'all. This is why I'm trying to take care of myself, because now I'm having swallowing issues again. God knows what it's doing to my throat or my thyroid, whatever it is in there that's being affected, my esophagus, whatever it is. So the chronic and longer term symptoms: cognitive problems, difficulty with focus. I already have ADD, y'all. You think I need more cognitive issues? Difficulty with focus, forgetfulness, and other neurocognitive abnormalities, such as sounding like I have a speech impediment, sounding like I can't speak, like I'm stammering all over myself. I can't even do my freestyles the way I used to, y'all. Headaches, severe and persistent headaches, balance and coordination, persistent issues with balance and an unsteady gait. Hearing and vision, tinnitus, that's what I was just talking about, y'all, the tinnitus. Ringing in the ears and hearing loss, as well as vision changes. Fatigue, profound and persistent fatigue. I think I don't deal with the fatigue and the balance and coordination because I work out so often. So I don't deal with that. I could only imagine what my brain would be like if I weren't working out the way that I do. Anyways, I just had to read this to y'all, man. It's scary. It is important to note that medical experts are still researching the full extent and nature of these injuries. And while a directed energy weapon is suspected cause for Havana syndrome, the exact causes are da-da-da-da-da. So that's stupidness. That's irrelevant. Oh, that's something that I saw in my newsfeed, y'all. And they keep sending stuff like this. Look at the plaid shirt to freak me out. They know I'm having the swallowing issues. Remember I told you with the AI, they can send you sensitization. This is an example. I'm so glad I went to this picture. They can send stuff in your newsfeed or your recommended with sensitization. It's called shadow networking AI software. That's what's used to hack all your technological devices. And then you'll just start to notice that you're seeing like these recurrent themes or sensitizing things. Everything you click on, you're noticing a certain theme, whatever it is to your specific targeting. Remember with me, I told you they use plaid shirts. So you see he has the plaid shirt. They know I'm having the swallowing issue again. They're going to send this guy that has a tumor on his thyroid. They also know that I'm into holistic health and fasting and working out and healing the body naturally. So they're going to send it to the fruitarian group that I'm a part of on Facebook and send it in my news feed with the guy with the plaid shirt and he has the big tumor in his throat. Anyway, thank God he healed it naturally, but nonetheless, it's fear-mongering. And it's sensitization. So this is another example of how they use the technology, y'all. Anyway, let me get back to the point, y'all. What made me go off on the tangent was the fact that I keep stammering. Even as I listened to that first clip that I made, I was just cringing. Some of the grammar is poor. I'm stammering all over my words. It's terrible what's happening to me. Anyway, y'all, so let me talk about what the video is about, though. It's about the fact that I didn't get my food stamps. And then when I went outside of the grocery store, somebody that I had mentioned in one of these recent videos was walking out the store, walked directly in front of my car in a white shirt with a red stocking cap on. So in my mind, I'm like, of all people for you to use, if that's what they're doing, I mean, it's obvious that's what they're doing, using him as a gang stalker. But what I don't know is, are you insinuating that me talking about him or just making the videos in general is why I didn't get my stamps? Because using him of all people was a poor choice. That's a prime example of why I'm going through what I'm going through and why I make the videos and why I feel the need to defend myself. Because even here in the targeting, when I initially talked about this cyber stalking, cyberbullying guy, and you guys have to listen to my full story to know about that situation, or this is going to sound like foreign info. I talked about for years what took place with that guy and why I mentioned him in my videos in the first place. That guy they used in front of the store is one of the guys that was used to set me up. And this was prior to the targeting. That's in cahoots with that cyber stalking, cyberbullying guy. So why would you use him of all people to gang stalk? Anyway, y'all, let me stop the video, though. Again, I'm not going to stop it again. Remember, I told you I was going to stop because I was hearing noise outside. I want to stop now because I got confused. I went off on a tangent and started showing y'all the long-term effects of the Havana syndrome to explain the stammering and why it sounds like I have a speech impediment sometimes. But now I want to listen again to not the first clip I made, but the last two clips, just so things can be organized, y'all. I like my videos to be cohesive and organized. So I'll be right back. Anyways, y'all, so let's go over to my food stamps so we could take a look at what's going on, right? As most of y'all, I'm sure, know, food stamps hits on the 1st. Most of you all, if you're targeted, are probably receiving food stamps. That's what we have to do to survive. Typically, we're getting government assistance as targets. If you can get it, if you're not blocked up, right? Thank the most I haven't really been blocked up for the most part, but sometimes things are difficult. So, as you can see, right, it's the 1st. Hold on a minute. November 1st. I'm supposed to get my stamps today. I was excited to yapping off at them about how excited I was that I was getting my stamps today because I'm broke. It's taking long to load. I want y'all to see that note from the government, right? Let me come on and go back in, y'all. All of a sudden it's taking forever to load and the note isn't showing. That's so annoying. Where's the note? Now the note's completely gone. What the hell? There was a note here earlier, y'all, that was saying something about the government shutdown. Don't worry, you're getting your stamps, your November stamps, but there might be a delay due to the government shutdown. It's totally gone now, but it's in the last clip, thank God. If y'all check out the last clip that I recorded, I'm sure you saw it already. It was on the screen and I took it down. So this is the next clip now that I'm making. So y'all saw what it said. Hold on. As a matter of fact, I know I said I wasn't going to end the clips again, y'all, but I want to go back into the last clip I made and take a screenshot and show y'all that message. It's funny how now the message is gone. Anyway, let me end this. I'll be right back, y'all. So y'all, I'm glad I decided to come out and do that because I realized I did not open the food stamps in the prior clips like I thought I did. But in that last clip, I opened it, and briefly as I was opening it, you could see that the message was there, but then it quickly reloaded and the message was gone. All morning that thing has been there. Now I'm making the video, it's gone. But good thing I was able to get a screenshot from that last clip, y'all. So you can see the message I was getting all morning. It said updated 10:31. Government shutdown update. Your November SNAP deposit will arrive, but it may be delayed. This is an evolving situation. We'll keep you updated. All week I've been hearing on Facebook people that are getting stamps panicking about, are we going to get our stamps or not? And then I saw this message that went viral saying that a judge ruled against Trump, I guess in the Superior Court, I'm assuming. They ruled against Trump's decision and said that he cannot withhold funds from people or families in need. So specifically, I think there still seems to be some sort of confusion going on. I specifically looked up the Virgin Islands. When I saw the confusion and I saw that I didn't get my stamps this morning, I went to look things up. I didn't automatically think it's the targeting. I thought, well, maybe it really is this situation with the government shutdown. I'm like, oh my God, great. So I went online, not to use that word, and I specifically looked up the U.S. Virgin Islands. And this is what it said. It said, due to the federal government shutdown, SNAP benefits for November 2025 are delayed, but the U.S. Virgin Islands government has approved a local emergency plan to provide half of the November benefit amount via paper checks. These checks, covering a total of $2.76 million, will be mailed to approximately 10,603 households across St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, with distribution starting around late October. I didn't get any mail. I went to the mailbox. All I got were 2 bills. That's what I got in the mailbox. So I'm confused. And then also I saw someone online, like I said this week, saying that none of that was happening, that we were just going to get our deposits. That's what I saw online. And it was a post that was going viral. But of course I can't go by the post of a civilian. It wasn't a government official to my knowledge that said that. But here on Google, this is what you see. They say that we're supposed to be getting a letter in the mail. I didn't get that. So now I'm starting to feel like it could be targeting. And I'm wondering, because then I pulled up, like I said, to the grocery store. And right as I'm pulling past the front door to find a park, in front of my car walks this guy that I had just mentioned in one of my recent videos. And he's wearing a white shirt and a red stocking cap. So I'm like, is this due to targeting? So I remembered I parked and I tried to wait a couple seconds for him to drive off. I remember coming out the car to go in the store and I saw him heading back in the store. And so I said, okay, let me go to a different store. So I hopped in my car, went to a different store. And I noticed as I'm driving to the other store, a fire truck drives by me on the road. So this is where I'm like, is this targeting? What's going on with me not getting my stamps? Or is this the government shutdown? Because where's my check? So anyways, let me tell you how it's gaslighting though. I'm not trying to say too much and get in trouble, right? Because things could only get worse. If, they could get much worse. Not could only get worse. Things could get much worse for me if I'm not careful. It's gaslighting for them to use him specifically because that whole video, he's not the only dude I talked about. I talked about several men in that video. That whole video was created as a defense. It was in defense of me because they sent something horrible with the technology. Shortly after what took place in the gym. Hold on, let's go over to YouTube, y'all. I won't be gaslit. This is crazy. Now, mind you, before I talk about this, y'all, with the food stamps, also note that I'm due to recertify about 2 weeks prior to today, where I was supposed to get this deposit. I was notified that I had a recertification meeting. They have a new young lady working the front desk. I don't want to say too much, I'm on camera and I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I know what it's like to work a new position, and then I have a vicarious situation going on where my interactions are recorded and the whole island is watching. So if you're new on a job and I walk up to you, you're aware of the fact that the whole island is watching our interaction. So I believe she was nervous. She was acting very nervous dealing with me, but she was friendly. She had a friendly demeanor. So this is where I don't have any attack on her. But the confusion started there, right? Where she told me that I had a meeting when I went in there. I went in there to apply for an increase in stamps because of my reduction in hours on the job. I went in there to apply for an increase. And so going back and forth in there, I was checking on the status of things and I had turned in a job letter. That's why I was going back and forth in there. So I noticed this young lady working the front desk. First time I dealt with her, she, kind, polite, whatever. She seemed a little nervous, but I could tell she's just new to the job. I noticed when I went in there, I think one of the times I went in there, she told me that I have a meeting coming up next week. She said, Wednesday, come in on Wednesday. You have a meeting on Wednesday, your recertification meeting. I said, okay, thank you. I left the office. I went into my phone. This is how I am. I write lists. I write text. This is how I keep track of things. I immediately texted myself that I have a meeting on Wednesday. I came anytime. I didn't know there was a specific time. I thought it was free and open to come anytime because she didn't give me a time. So I came later in the day, and I remember her telling me, but your appointment was at 10 a.m. I said, 10 a.m.? And she said, yeah, 10 a.m. I said, well, that's not what you told me. I said, you're the one I spoke with on so-and-so day, Friday, and you didn't give me a time. And she said, yes, I did. I said, no, you didn't. I said, you just told me to come in on Wednesday. And I didn't say it in a rude way either. I'm saying it kind of like this cynically now. Because look, I didn't get my stamps. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. So anyways, I think it's bigger than her and our interaction, though, to be honest with you. Especially with the gang stalking I saw outside the store. I think this is a lot bigger than that girl. I don't have an issue with her. It's not like she was nasty with me. Like I said, if you're not nasty with me and you mess up or something basity happens, I'm not going to attack you. It's when you're nasty to me is where then I will bite back. She was very polite every time I dealt with her. I can tell she's new to the job. So anyway, that's a minor error anyways, right? You not telling me the time, that's fine. So she said, okay, well, here's what to do. She said, write down your social. And she said she would go back there and talk to whoever my caseworker is. So she came back out and told me that my caseworker would call me either that day, which was a Friday, or the following Monday. So just look out for the call. So I said, okay, no problem. I said, thank you. I left. I was polite. I didn't give her attitude or anything. I left. I noticed Friday, the whole day passed. I didn't get the call. Then Monday came. I noticed the whole day passed. I didn't get the call. So I remember going in at the end of the day on Monday when I realized I wasn't getting the call because I so badly wanted to make sure that I had everything in place. So just so this wouldn't happen to me. I wouldn't come today and see that I don't have food stamps. I've been in that office so many times. They have all been watching how many times I went in there, trying to deal with stuff just so this wouldn't happen to me. So anyways, so I went in there and I spoke to her. I said, hey, she wasn't there. It wasn't her this time. It was an older lady. I actually think I went to school with this girl. She's Spanish. I think she's older than me though. I think she maybe like my sister or my older sister's age, but I remember her face. I believe I went to school with her back in the day. Anyway, and when I say older lady, y'all, I'm not old. I'm in my early 30s, but older compared to the other girl that I was dealing with. The other girl looks like 20s, like, anywhere from my younger brother's age to my younger sister's age, mid to late 20s, that type of thing. And I'm in my early 30s. Anyway, and so this woman that I dealt with now this second time looked like my older sister's age, like mid to late 30s. And I remember her face. I think I went to school with her. Anyway, so she told me, well, who's your caseworker? I said, I don't know the name of my caseworker. And she said, well, don't worry about it. She said, and I know they all are watching me on camera. I'm targeted. So it's not like a specific situation where I'm a random coming in, where I feel like I need to like get you to go back there and talk to the person. I figure like everyone knows what's going on. I just took what she said at face value. She said, well, she's going to call you. She knows she has to call you. Okay, so don't worry about it. She's going to call you. I said, okay, no problem. I said, I just want to make sure that I get this dealt with before food stamps. And she said, don't worry about it. She said, even if she explained to me that even if I don't have my recertification meeting, and I'm mixing up the times that I spoke with this lady, because the first time I spoke with her, she really was just telling me, don't worry, I'm going to get the call. She didn't mention my stamps yet. I didn't bring up the stamps yet. It was the second time that I spoke to her, which was last week, like towards the end of the week, was when she told me what I was about to say. So I don't want to mix up our two interactions. So when I spoke to her about not getting the call, she said, don't worry, she's going to call you. You know, she has a lot of people to call. Just be patient. I said, okay. I'm looking at the date. I'm like, okay, oh boy. You know, stamps is supposed to be here in a week. I need to make sure that this meeting happens, that I get recertified so I can get my food stamps. So all throughout the week, I'm calling, I'm trying to get through, not getting through. I keep going in and popping my head in. So finally I popped my head and I had to deal with the young lady again, right? And I said, hey, I never heard about my recertification meeting. Or I didn't specifically mention recertification. I said, I never heard back. I'm just thinking she's familiar with the situation. I know she deals with a lot of customers, but I'm the target. So not that I'm special and I get special treatment, but it's this weird thing where they all know what's going on with you when you're targeted. So not only have I dealt with you one-on-one about my situation and the fact that I'm trying to get recertified, but then I'm the target. So I'm thinking she's going to remember, especially since I had just dealt with her about a week ago, that this is about recertification. So I went to the counter and I said, hey, I still haven't heard from my caseworker yet. And she said, you haven't? And she said, okay, hold on a minute. She said, give me your social, I wrote down my information. She looks in the computer and she tells me, your money is there. There's money on your card. You just need to call the back of the card. You didn't call yet? And I said, no. I said, money is there. So I'm thinking that this is because I turned in the job letter. So I was thinking that, okay, well, maybe they somehow surpassed the recertification now that I turned in the job letter. You know, I had turned in the job letter before she told me that I needed to do the recertification, by the way, y'all. But this is what my mind registered when she said that I need to just check my card and the money's there. And I said, the money's there. I said, just check my card. She said, yeah, you just need to call the number on the back of the card. I said, really? And I said, so I don't have to do the meeting anymore? She said, no. So it's like, okay, thanks. I got excited. I said, thank you. I went to my car and I called. Zero balance, $0 in the account. So in my head, I'm like, huh? I'm like, she told me that I had money on my account. And the only reason I assumed that she was saying that was because I had turned in that job letter talking about my reduction in hours. So I figured they just awarded me more money. And that's why I was getting an early deposit. It was some sort of like, I don't know. This is what I was thinking in my head. Some sort of prorated amount is what I thought. So I go back into her and I said, hey, I said, there's no money on my card. And she said, well, maybe there's an issue with your card. She said, maybe you need a new card. You need to go to the issuing office. I said, okay. I said, sure, no problem. So I remember going upstairs to the issuing office and dealing with this older lady that took my information. And she said, no, you don't need a new card. And she said, what's going on? And I said, I'm just trying to get my recertification. I said, I was told to come up here and there's an issue with the card. And she said, well, you're confusing us. What is it that you need? And I said, I'm here to get recertified. I said, the young lady at the front desk told me that I had money on my card and to go call the number on the back of the card. And so she said, no, they can't even see what money you have on your card down there in that office. I don't know why she told you that. She said, I'm so sorry. She said, no, what you need to do is find out who your case manager is, and you need to deal with the case manager. And she said, give me a minute. Let me look up your info. So she went to the computer and she looked at my info, and she found out who my case manager was. And so she made a call, found out whatever she needed to find out. And she said, listen, she has a lot of people that she's dealing with, but she's going to call you. She said, here's her direct number. Your case manager is Miss So-and-so. She said, you can call yourself now that you have the direct number. She said, just give her time and she's going to contact you sometime this week. She said, I'm so sorry about that. She apologized profusely. I said, no problem. I left. I'm looking at the date. I noticed we're getting closer and closer to the 1st. I'm like, oh my God, I hope this is not going to affect my stamps. I've been coming in like every day, wasting gas, driving all over Frederick said, just to avoid not getting my stamps. Right? I'm doing everything possible to make sure that I get my deposit on the day I'm supposed to get it. So now, I still realized I hadn't heard from my person, right? My caseworker. So I remember going into the office and again, I dealt with the older Spanish lady. It's the girl that I said, I think I went to school with back in the day. And so I remembered her telling me, you just have to give her time. She has a lot of people that she's dealing with. She said, just give her a chance is what she said. Just give her a chance to call you because she has a lot of people that she's dealing with. And I said, okay, I don't have a problem with waiting for her to get in touch with me. My main concern is that I'm not going to get my direct deposit on the 1st. And she said, oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. She said, even if you don't get recertified, that has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to get your refund or your deposit. She said, that's not going to stop you from getting your deposit. I said, okay, as long as it doesn't stop me from getting my deposit, I don't mind how long it takes her to get in contact with me. As long as it's not going to stop me from getting my deposit. She said, no. I said, okay, thanks. You know, all the time being polite, all the back and forth. I was not disrespectful. I've been polite, been patient. Finally, I noticed the first day that I got unemployment, my unemployment deposit. This was last Wednesday. I had just heard back from my caseworker. She called me early in the morning. And I had noticed I didn't get my direct deposit from unemployment either. I got it later in the day. But that was when I heard from her. So I thought, I kind of was like, is it connected? But I was like, I tried not to think that way, right? Later in the day, I did get my unemployment. Anyway, so I remember her calling me and I was having a brief conversation and I was explaining to her that I had a reduction in hours. So I'm trying to see if I can get awarded more stamps. And so she was telling me, well, you know, even if you turn in a job letter, it's not really based on the job letter because you could turn in stuff that's, what was she telling me? She didn't tell me this on the phone, by the way. On the phone, we just talked about meeting up in person. And then when I actually went into the office that day, that was when we had this conversation. She called me while I was in the office. She was telling me basically that the job letter doesn't mean anything because I could be getting more hours that's not written on the job letter. And I said, but that doesn't make sense. I said, why would a company write a job letter verifying that I had a reduction in hours? They know they could get in trouble with the government and then it not match my pay stubs. So she was saying, well, we go by wages, so we're gonna have to go by your most recent wages. And I said, yes, but the reduction in hours just happened. It happened 2 weeks ago. That's why I submitted the letter, the job letter. I said, so my recent pay stubs are not going to reflect the change. The two most recent pay stubs reflect the change somewhat. The last one specifically reflects it. The one before that, there were still trickles of the hours I had worked, but still they're significantly lower than the two before that. So she wants my last 4 pay stubs. The first 2 are not going to reflect the change. The last 2 is where you see the reflection. So I told her that. I tried to explain that to her and she said, oh, well, we go by wages. And I said, so a reduction in hours doesn't matter because I've been dealing with food stamps my whole life. Not like I've been on stamps my whole life, y'all. I've worked my whole life. There was a point where I didn't qualify for food stamps. Like when I was teaching, etc., I didn't qualify for food stamps. But in my early 20s, I had food stamps. When I was in college in my early 20s, I had food stamps. So I know how it works. No disrespect to this caseworker. You know, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just saying I know that a reduction in hours matters. So I knew that didn't make sense what was being said to me, that a reduction in hours doesn't matter. And even if you don't submit a job letter, I was confused. I was like, I know that matters because I've had food stamps before. So I remember, you know, just being confused. I said, so a job letter doesn't matter? You know, I remember her saying, no, we go by the wages and, you know, we're going to go by your most recent wages. And I said, but what if it just happened, the reduction in hours? You're not going to see that in my most recent wages. You'll see it in my 2 most recent pay stubs, but you're not going to see it in the 2 prior ones. And she said, well, that's just how it works. We go by wages and whatever she said, you know? So I said, okay, well, let me turn in my most recent pay stub so you can see the changes that I'm talking about. And she said, okay, well, just get the most recent pay stub and turn everything in. So I have a meeting on Monday with her. So I just went online to look it up because I was like, is this a targeted individual thing? I was, because I know that a reduction in hours definitely matters. So I remember even filling out the application. The application even mentioned it. I took a screenshot. I was like, what? In the application, you can see where it says employment income. It says on the application, did you or any member of your SNAP/cash household become employed, quit working, got laid off, started working less or more hours, changed jobs, had a change in wages, started a business, or is now self-employed? So they're not going to put that in the application if that doesn't matter. Of course you do go by wages, but if I just got the reduction in hours, I need to prepare myself ahead of time for these wages and for the change in wages that's going to happen. So the job letter should suffice in addition to my 2 most recent pay stubs where you see the reflection of the change. So anyways, I then went online and I looked it up too because I was really confused. And it said, yes, a reduction in work hours that leads to a lower income can increase the amount of food stamps you receive. Your benefits are calculated based on your household's income. So earning less money can lead to higher monthly assistance. You must report the change in your work hours to your state's food stamp office to ensure your benefits are adjusted correctly. So that is supposed to matter. So I was confused. I don't know if I misunderstood what she was saying, if there was like a miscommunication on my end, but I started to instantly think targeted individual. I started to get real concerned. I was like, what? Because I know that matters. Anyway, nonetheless, I was finally given a meeting with her. So on Monday, I'm supposed to go meet with her. But I'm not thinking that this is going to affect my SNAP, because I've been going in. I did everything I was supposed to do. I kept going in adamantly, trying to get this meeting dealt with so that I would get my food stamps. So I know this couldn't be the reason. There's no way that that's the reason. And I even spoke to, like I said, the older lady behind the desk, and she told me that wouldn't affect my refund. So I know this couldn't be the reason. So for me, I'm still holding on to hope that it's something to do with the government shutdown, and for whatever reason I didn't get my check. That might be targeting as well. I don't know. But I'm going to see on Monday. But right now I don't have groceries. I'm broke. I have like $40 in my name. I'm not getting another unemployment direct deposit until next Wednesday. I was looking forward to getting groceries today and Sunday. Now I have to wait till Monday to get groceries. Anyway, so and nonetheless though, y'all, the whole point of me making the video wasn't to complain about that, I'm just adding that in because I'm trying to speculate why I don't have my refund. And so I know that situation is pending. I'm wondering, is that the issue? Or is it the fact that I didn't get a check and everyone else got one, the government check thing that the website said? Or is it just straight targeted individual? Like, I'm just trying to figure it out because of what I saw in front of the grocery store. So let's go back over here now and tie it back to this guy, right? That I saw in front of the store. Again, I'm not going to say his name. So, in these two videos, y'all, the part 1, targeted individual sex tape scandal, and part 2, targeted individual sex tape scandal. And you can see the thumbnail says, what to do if someone is secretly recording you. I made these videos to defend myself, y'all, because they're gaslighting about me making the videos. This is what they always do. Said horrible stuff with the technology, hinting stuff. You know I'm going to defend myself, and then gaslight me about defending myself. Excuse me. So if y'all listen to those videos, you'll hear the context of the videos, and you'll hear what happened with the technology. And all of this is fallout for this incident that occurred with the personal trainer's girlfriend, by the way. You need to start at this video, the sabotaging and gaslighting of the targeted individual. The video with me in the blue graduation outfit. That's me for my college graduation, 2020. Well, actually, I didn't walk until 2022 due to COVID. But anyway, if you check out that video, you'll hear me talking about some of the same stuff I talked about in this video. Again, the impeding of employment or difficulty with employment, etc., etc. You'll hear me expound on the teaching thing and how recently I thought I would be teaching again, and that wasn't the case. But then at the end of the video, you'll hear about this interaction that happened between the personal trainer's girlfriend and myself, right? And I have dealt with fallout since that incident occurred. Something happened between she and I, an interaction, some gang stalking stuff they were trying to do that kind of backfired. And I got whipped mercilessly. For the last 3 weeks, it's been merciless whippings because of it. Attacks with the technology, attacking my self-esteem, gang stalking activity, them insinuating that they had recorded one of my sexual interactions from the past. That's what led to me making those videos and being so candid about my history, right? With my sexual history. So while making those videos, I started talking about one of the guys. I'm calling him a bitter ex because that's the interaction I think they recorded. And I was talking about what led to me even dating him in the first place because he was younger than me. He was like 5 years and change younger than me, the same age as my younger sister. And the only reason I even gave him the time of day anyways was because at that time, I couldn't authentically date anyone on island due to the cyber stalking, cyberbullying situation. Any dude that I tried to talk to was trying to set me up. And this was prior to me becoming a target, y'all. You're hearing big, loud barking. They always do this when they know I'm making sense. They start to bark dogs and make a bunch of noise to shut me up because what I'm saying makes sense. So anyways, that's why I mentioned that guy. I started going off on a tangent, a relevant one, where I was talking about what led to me dating that bitter ex in the first place. And the reason I'm calling him a bitter ex, y'all, is because I believe he said negative stuff about me. I don't know. I'm not sure. And because I don't have validation, I don't want to just go ham.com, but they were hinting stuff with the technology. They were hinting stuff like crazy. So I went into the whole history of me and that guy, between me and that guy, right? And so I also started talking about some of the things that took place around the time when him and I were together and why I even gave him the time of day in the first place. Because typically I don't date younger men. I like men my age and or older. Preferably older, not way older, but like a few years older. So anyways, I ended up talking about just trying to give y'all an example of a situation where I was set up due to the cyber-stalking, cyberbullying guy. And I talked about this guy, I was calling him the sushi guy, from the other side of the neighborhood. He lived right across the street from us. This was years ago, y'all. This was prior to me going back to Florida and going back to school and getting my bachelor's degree. I was in my mid-20s back then. I was like 25 or 26, anywhere from 25 to 27 those years. I'm 34 now. I'm basically 34. So this was a few years ago, quite a while ago, right? So anyway, he lived right across the street from us. And I didn't really pay attention to the guy. I'm not saying this he's a good looking guy, but I wasn't paying attention to him. I really wasn't. And at this time too, a lot was going on island with the men where I couldn't trust really anyone. So I definitely wasn't paying attention to him. I used to stay in the house. I was minding my business. And I used to have just different guys reaching out trying to set me up off and on. Like, this is literally what was going on. This is what led to me, again, I reiterate, dating the bitter ex. That's the only reason I was open to it. He's not a bad looking guy, but I don't typically date younger. So anyways, so I remember, I can't mention it. I remember someone in my close circle at the time we used to be in the streets, walking up and down, hanging out. This was around Hurricane Irma time. So the current was gone. The power lines were broken. A lot of people were out in the streets hanging out. I used to be out there sometimes too, hanging out. I'm not going to lie, but for the most part, I stayed in the house. And so she used to be up and down in the streets and stuff, hanging out. And I remembered her kind of saying that she and this guy, she had kind of developed like a little crush on him. You know, he's an older guy, and I guess she thought he was cute or whatever. And she said he used to be driving up and down, and she said like a couple times she had eye contact with him or whatever, what was going on. So she was just telling us about it. You know, we're all close. You know, you're close with a relative. You talk about people you have a crush on or things that are happening, blah, 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 whatever's going on. So I remember one day now, I was walking to work. This was when I was a paraeducator. When I was working for the Department of Education, I wasn't a teacher yet. I only had an associate's degree. I didn't have a bachelor's degree yet. So I remember this day I had gotten my hair done. My hair was cornrowed, and I was wearing my work clothes, and I used to walk. I didn't have a car in the school that I was teaching at. Not teaching per se, but teaching. I was a TA/special education paraeducator. So I used to work one-on-one with students. So the school I was working at was a hop and a skip away from the neighborhood I lived in. I used to walk there in heels. I used to walk there. So I remember I'm walking one day, and I noticed the car, and I know the car because she told us about it, and also he lived right across the street from us. So I noticed the car drive by me, and it slowed down a little bit, and I remember it turned around and came, and it stopped next to me. So I remember being surprised, like, huh? So I remember just getting in the car, and he offered me a ride, and he's talking to me, and he was acting cheery and chipper, and kind of asking me about myself and what I do and this and that, and I was explaining to him that I work at the school, this and that. And he said, oh, that's nice, you're working at the school, blah, 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 blah. Brief conversation, man. We exchanged numbers. He asked me for my number. I didn't mind doing it. Despite her saying what she said about having the eye contact with him and stuff, she had a boyfriend at the time. He was way older than her, first of all. From what he told me, he's older than me. I think he's the same age or very close to the same age, a little bit younger, I believe, if I remember correctly, as the cyber-stalking, cyberbullying guy. So he's way older than her. And then at the time, too, she had a boyfriend that she had in the neighborhood. So I didn't think it was a big deal. It wasn't like this somebody that she really liked, like she went to school with, that she really had a crush on, and I knew this to be. It was like some side thing where she just told me, oh, you know, there's this cute guy in the neighborhood I have eye contact with. Like, I didn't take it serious. I didn't feel like it was a big deal if I talked to him. It wasn't one of those things where I felt guilty about it. So I knew something wasn't right, though, you know, because he worked at the hospital. When I get to talking to the dude good and getting to know him, right, I started realizing he's telling me he works at the hospital. So I'm like, there's no way on God's green earth that this man doesn't know about the situation. All the dudes I've talked to thus far has known, right? There's no way you're around this man's age and you're working in the hospital and you don't know about this situation. I was just like, there's no way. Mind you, this is before I became a target. So anyway, it's just one of those things where, you know, when you're targeted and not targeted, excuse me, it's kind of like being targeted, what I was dealing with. I couldn't date. It's similar to targeting. I said this in my full story that I dealt with a target-like situation prior to my targeting. It was nowhere near as intense or as invasive, but just specifically when it came to dating here in Ireland, it was similar to what targets go through. So this is not new to me, at least the dating part of it, aspect of it, what's happening to me as a target. So at least back then, though, I could leave and, you know, possibly date somebody authentically abroad. The thing trickled into Florida too, by the way, y'all. I talked about this in my prior videos, but it just didn't trickle the way that it is now as a target. Where if I try to leave now and date somebody, everybody will be involved. It doesn't matter where I go. This thing attaches itself to you. So anyways, I remember I hung out with him a couple times. I didn't hang out with him many times. I hung out with him like 3-4 times. A couple times I went to this man's apartment. And I remembered him picking me up and he wasn't giving me a bad vibe. It's not like some of the dudes where it's like bad energy. I didn't get a bad energy from him. So that's why I gave it a chance. Even though I knew it was like, this is not smart. You know what's going on. Just keep your wits about you. I still decided to try to feel out the situation and see. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a human. I'm human. You think I didn't want to date somebody? I'm human. You're not gonna clown me for being human and you doing bad-minded stuff as a revenge tactic. That's crazy. So anyway, and he, you know, obviously a guy that has stuff going for him. He's working a decent job. He knows how to talk to you or whatever. He wine and dine, not totally wine and dine. It's not like he was taking me out anywhere. I remember he did this mean tactic where he had bought some salmon. He was going off about this salmon from one of the restaurants that was near the movie theaters. So he bought the salmon for me to try. We didn't go inside the restaurant, but he pulls up outside the movie theater after he buys the salmon. He acts like he's looking in and he's looking at the movies and, this movie's out and that movie's out. We should go see one of these movies. I get like, we're going to go to the movies, you know. And he said, maybe another night. Sitting there, you know, the man's sitting there going ham, acting like he's looking at movies, trying to figure out a movie for us to watch. Maybe another night. That's why I did what I did. You know, they're making it like I'm a bitch. That's why I did what I did. So anyways, I tried the salmon or whatever, right? I hung out with him a couple times at his apartment. I remember another night now, his specialty is making sushi. I remember him making the sushi and stuff. He showed me magic tricks. He had cards on the table. I should have known all that was just one set of charm and games, right? He showed me that he could do this and that with the cards and all kind of strippiness and talking my head off, right? So then we go in the room and he puts a movie on. And when it gets to the sex scene, he starts trying to do stuff. First, he starts kissing me. And then he acts like he's going to give me a massage. So I'm like, let me see what's going on, you know, because I started also hearing like this weird sound, like coming from his closet. I kept feeling, and I felt like I was being paranoid. It's stupid, dumb. Not dumb because I didn't do anything with him, but stupid to let it get that far. But after a while, it turned into spite. When I started kind of catching on to what I think I already knew the whole time. You know, intuition going off, even though he didn't have a bad energy. Like I said, some of the guys I dealt with that were doing it, it was like reeking of bad energy. Where it's like, you're not even going to get too far with this. Like, it's obvious what's going on. He was more charming. He's the dangerous type. He was very charming. And so I'm like, let me give it a chance, whatever. Anyway, so I was hearing some weird stuff coming from the closet. I was like, should I get up and look in the closet? I don't want to look like a para person. You know, but I'm certain I'm hearing stuff, man. It was just like this snickering or some kind of weird sound I was hearing from the closet. So I was like, part of me wanted to get up, but I was like, nah, let me not do it. So I remember watching this movie with Tiana Taylor. I forgot what the name of the movie was. And it got to this sex scene. I know this is TMI, y'all. This is what happened. And I talked about it in the video. And this is why they made him show up in front of the store with the red stocking cap and the white shirt. But you could tell he's guilty. Even when he passed in front of my car, he didn't even look in the car at me. And then he started putting his head down. He knows he did this. He knows all of this happened. So why would you use him of all people as a gang stalker? That more validates what I'm saying. That I don't deserve this treatment. I already went through so much. So anyway, so he starts massaging me and doing all this stuff. And eventually he gets to the point where he puts protection on. You know, like we're about to do stuff. So as we get close to doing whatever, we did not do anything. As we get close to doing whatever we got close to doing, I purposely got up right before we did it. Like I let us get real close. Like you really thought we were about to do stuff. And then I got up, I said, oh, I need to go. I have to go. I made some excuse. I acted like I was flustered and like I needed to go home. I was putting on a show too, acting like I was so into it and like we were about to do stuff. And then right before we actually got to the point of doing anything, I sat up and acted flustered and like I needed to go home. So I remember him pausing and looking really annoyed. Like he put his clothes on. He drove past the neighborhood because, mind you, he was living at his mother's house. He didn't live there. He had his own apartment, but he would stay nights at his mother's house. And that's why he was across the street from us, right across. His house was right across from the house we were living in. So he drove up this hill. He lived right in the area where the cyberstalking, cyberbullying dude lived. You have to know he knew this dude. Anyway, he drove down the hill, drove past the neighborhood where his mother and my house was, right? His mother's house and my house was. Drove past it and went to the gas station. He parks at the gas station and just looks at me, sits there and looks at me and glares at me. So I remembered looking at him dead in his eyes and waiting for him to get out and put the gas in. And then when he got out and he put the gas in, he took me home and that was it. The contact done. I remember the next day something happened. He called me and he made some excuse like he was getting mad at me for something, some dumb, stupid ass excuse that didn't make sense, and act like he's hanging up on me. And I'm just cracking up. The whole time I'm cracking up because I'm like, this whole thing was a setup. The dude was trying to do stuff as a setup. And God knows if they would have recorded it too. Who knows? And while I was talking about it too, right, and making the video and stuff, they played against me on the pool game with something that said bet. Like there was some sort of bet going. You understand the stuff I've been through and the level of trauma I've been through, how low this thing has gone. And this was before I was even a target. So understand the things I've been through and what I'm dealing with. Understand. And they had the nerve to use him of all people as a gang stalker in front of the store. So anyways, I just think that's crazy. Out of all the people I talked about, that wasn't the one to use. That didn't hit. That didn't make sense. That more so validated the things I'm saying. So anyways, I need to blow my nose, y'all. So after that interaction, years later, after I graduated from school and I came back home and I became a target at this time, shortly before I left Island. This was like the end of 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022. I remember I started riding my bike through the neighborhood. And at the time I was living in the old neighborhood where the cyberstalking, cyberbullying guy lives. So I used to ride my bike through the neighborhood and stuff, and I used to ride across the street. So I had to cross the street where he had to pass every day, because remember his apartment is near that area. And I used to cross over to this neighborhood, and there was this kind of steep hill that I used to ride up and down. I liked the incline. I liked the pressure and the tension it put on my legs. Excuse me. At this time, they're watching me on camera, y'all. So this is how I know it's like all relative. It's all related. The whole thing is related. My targeting and that situation, it's all relative. I told you some of the stuff that happened in that old neighborhood before I tried to relocate off island. Before I ever made a video. So the fact that they gave me so much backlash for talking about it when they knew it was true the whole time is insanity to me. Anyway, so nonetheless, so I remember I'm in the neighborhood now riding my bike. And I remember the same car, I see him drive through slowly. I'm like, is that dude? I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, no way. I see him driving through slowly one time. He drive past me. I was like, it's probably just the same car. I'm like, there's no way in God's green they're going to use him in my target. I'm like, there's no way. I remember another time I'm riding the bike. This time he starts slowing down. He stopped like he going to stop next to me. So I crossed in front of his car with my bike and I looked in and I saw it was him. And I remember I sped down the hill and I sped up the hill real quick with a quickness. Because I'm like, I already know what you're about. I remember what happened the last time. I'm not special. I'm now targeted. Like, what, dude, it was such an insult to my intelligence. I don't understand. He had added me on Facebook too around this time. So it's just like, are they, I'm just like, are they serious? This is what I was thinking in my head. Anyway, so that's the two encounters I had with him. It was those a few times that I hung out with him initially when him and I met back in 2016 or 17, around that time, around those years. And then recently around the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022, where it's like they tried to use him again. I don't know what you think, he's like God or the Don or something? What you thought I was going to be like, oh, I can't refuse. Like, I don't understand. And this is constantly how they test me, even in the gym. The whole reason my dumb ass said the main dude I'm having all the issues with was my type was because I stuck another dude on top of me, another pretty boy that was similar, don't look nothing like the guy, but I mean just that similar vibe. Tried to stick him on top of me in the gym. And he was acting so cocky and annoying. And I've been dealing with the thing for so long. And that trainer that I said was my type was in there moving around acting humble, that I took my dumb ass and I went on camera and I said whatever stupid shit I said. So anyways, y'all, it's just a nightmare. I've been dealing with this thing for years and years and years and years and years. And it's like the punishment that doesn't end and it goes on and on again. It's just ridiculous. So to me, I was like, I have to make a video about this because I'm like, there's no way that they're gaslighting me about making those videos and defending myself when they were sending all that sensitization with the movie I was watching. Then on the pool game, playing against me with weird stuff. Insinuations. You thought I was going to make a video and defend myself? And I just briefly mentioned that man because I was trying to show what led to me even dating the bitter ex in the first place. It was because I was dealing with targeted type stuff prior to my targeting. I've only talked about that man 2 times. Recently, when I made these videos, because of what they sent with the technology and I was defending myself, and then about maybe a year or 2 ago, back when I was still making videos about the cyberstalking, cyberbullying guy, and I was trying to give examples of how I had been set up throughout the years, I used him as a reference. So I don't know what the heck they're putting him. I don't understand it. That wasn't the gang stalker to use. That wasn't the one. That more so validates what I'm saying, that I don't deserve this. That wasn't the one. That one didn't hit. Anyway, so and you know he felt guilty too, because as he's pushing the cart in front of my car, he put his head down and he's looking down. You like, he knows he did what he did. It's not like he was moving bold and like angry, like I'm saying stuff that's not true. He's moving in this kind of way. He put his head down like this. He knows everything that I'm saying is true. The day it happened, I told my sisters. I told them everything about the whole interaction when it happened. So anyways, that's it, y'all. That's what's going on with that. I don't know why they used him, and I don't know why I see $0 in my food stamp account. But I felt the need to make a video about it because nothing makes sense. I went in ahead of time. I did everything I was supposed to do to make sure I got my stamps to avoid this happening to me. So I'm really hoping it's not the recertification situation when I was going in for weeks trying to deal with that. The government thing, I heard that it wasn't supposed to be a thing anymore, that got overruled. And then when I looked it up specifically online this morning, I saw that we were supposed to get paper checks. I didn't get one. And then I went to the store this morning and I saw what I saw. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Why didn't I get my food stamps? And there's something else I want to talk about too, y'all. Anyway, because they keep throwing the gay thing at me and I want to kind of just briefly talk about that. Hold on a minute. Let me just blow my nose, y'all. So I'll be back. Okay, y'all. The last thing I want to address is this gay narrative. So I told y'all that, they created this false narrative with the text message I sent in 2020. If you listen to the whole video where I tell my story, there are several options you can choose from in the description box and comment section. You'll hear what led to that text message or what preceded it. For a whole half a year, I dealt with some strange Airbnb activity when I was still in Florida, before I moved back home to the Virgin Islands. Very similar to the message that I sent when I got home. It was PTSD and trauma that led to me sending that text message. And it created this whole false narrative from it, this whole big tell-a-lie-strippiness. And at first it wasn't an issue when I was still on island dealing with the targeting. I didn't even know I was a target, like I told y'all, for the first 2 years. It wasn't until I tried to relocate in 2022 and I dealt with certain situations, traumatizing things up there. And then I came back to island and did research. It wasn't until then that I learned that I was a target. But prior to trying to relocate off island, I didn't have the sensitization that I do now to certain stimuli from that false narrative that they created. I don't even want to say. Y'all know what they created if you listen to my videos, right? At this point, it's a big joke. They know it's bullshit. They're accusing me of a bunch of different stuff just to make me feel accused. But I still feel the need to defend myself about this specific thing with this female for my job. I don't want to say female. That sounds disrespectful, and I kind of view her as a superior. When the thing started, I didn't even know she was a superior. I thought she was just a regular correction officer, to be honest with you. So I didn't feel as much angst about the situation. It was embarrassing, but I didn't feel as anxious about it. It wasn't until after the fact where I realized that, you know, whatever her position is, I'm just like, oh boy, this is even, like, of all people for this to happen with. My luck is terrible, I'm telling you. Anyway, y'all, so it's not related. The targeting at this point has been happening for 5 years. Like I said, we're going into year 6. It started at age 28. I'm making 34 at the end of the year in December. It's been happening for 5 years. We're going into year 6. For 3 years, they've been in my brain with the technology. To my knowledge, that's when they microchipped me, was when I got back on island at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023 was actually when I think they microchipped me, shortly after I got back on island. They've been in my brain for 3 years, and all they've seen is activity with men. Even when I didn't know that they were in there, what they saw was me daydreaming about this guy that I used to play pool with. And to humiliate me, they played me on the pool game with his name. And that was how I started realizing, wait a minute, how the hell, that's a coincidence. He has a unique name. I was just daydreaming about him, and now I'm playing the pool game, and this name is, that's where I started putting it together, y'all. And doing research, and that was when I learned about the brain-to-computer interface technology that they use on targets. And I found the patent for the technology and other targets talking about their experience and the technological telepathy that takes place. My God, scary stuff. High science stuff, y'all. But before I even knew they were in there, that's what they saw. They saw me daydreaming about a man, and they tried to humiliate me. Even after I knew they were in there, all they saw was men. That's all they saw all they saw were men. That's the activity. Not like I'm some freaky person that all day long I'm daydreaming about weird stuff. I'm just saying, I'm a female, I'm human, like everyone else. I have daydreams, and then I'm targeted. So everything's blocked up. So that's what I do. I daydream. And then on top of things, I have ADD. So I have an active imagination. Most people with ADD do. A lot of us are writers. We do poetry, music, write books, movies. It's just, that's how it is. It's not like all day long I'm daydreaming about this person and that person and that person and that person, but I do have daydreams, especially with the way things are. And if you're unhappy with your life and stuff, you might escape into the brain. So anyways, now 3 years later, a whole 3 years later, y'all. Hold on. So anyways, y'all, a whole 3 years later now, when I start working the job, this thing started happening with this person. First of all, y'all, with the way that I operate and stuff, I want to get married and have children. I've said this already. I'm not gay. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not. It happens. Sometimes you might have, I don't know if I've seen this study where they said it happens. I don't know how true or not true it is, but I know someone else in my close circle, my very close circle, that was telling me back in the day she was attracted to this female from her job, and it's not something that she acted on or would act on. It's not something that's common for me. It's not like I think they're taking it as, you know, trying to connect it to the false narrative because I play basketball and I'm a tomboy, and then it's just bad luck, man. I have a cousin who was dealing with females. I'm not judging her. I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. Actual sexual encounters with females, but she classifies or identifies as straight. I've never had a sexual encounter with a female. I've never had an attraction to a female. There's one female, and I've been very honest and open. I didn't have to tell them about this. They didn't know about this situation. I'm just an honest person. There's one other female in my life that I can remember I was attracted to, and that was when I was in rehab in my early 20s. And this girl was just gorgeous. Like, she was a model. She was actually a whole different aesthetic to the girl that I work with, because one is dark skin and one is light skin. So 2 different complexions, completely different. So no, it's not a chocolate thing like they're trying to make it seem. I don't care about complexion, really. I'm not a prejudiced person like they try to make it seem, nor am I specific. Even though I do typically with men have a type. Like, typically with men, my eyes will typically gravitate towards a red, brown man before any other color. But I don't care about color. I don't discriminate. I've dated light, dark, brown. I don't care how your color. That's so dumb and vain. If I'm attracted to you and we have a connection, then that's what it is. It's not a specific thing where I like dark skin or chocolate, or I like light skin, or I like there's no specificity when it comes to that. And if there were any type of specificity, I do typically find myself attracted to red, brown men. But that doesn't matter at all. Trust me. I know with the female thing, I don't like females. I don't have a reason to lie. In this day and age, it's so common. In fact, with females specifically, it's like this thing that's considered cool or sexy. Like, I remember in high school, a lot of the girls weren't even gay and they're trying to play it gay just because they thought it was cool or it looked good or whatever they think is sexy, whatever. I'm a tomboy. I like men. I'm just a tomboy. I'm one of those cool down chicks and I like guys. That's how it is. I like men. I don't have a reason to lie about it. It's just some sort of, I keep saying I think it's technological too. MK Ultra is a real thing. I was just looking at a video where they were talking about the MK Ultra program and how targeting works, where they're throwing this thing at you all day long, every day with the technology. And it's brainwashing. And it can literally brainwash your brain. It's called MK Ultra programming. Look it up. For years, they've been throwing rainbows at me and the narrative of me being gay and subliminal messaging about being gay. Like, they're literally MK Ultra programming me. Because this has been more specific than anything I've ever dealt with. Because even with that girl that I went to the rehab with, I just found her attractive. It wasn't like I was having daydreams about her. Like, that's just so weird to me. They've been in my brain for 3 years. This is the only activity, that's why they're running with it too bad. This is the only activity that they have seen that with. It's weird. Even the dream, all of it's strange to me. Anyway, so I just wanted to address it, y'all, because it's not like it's unusual for a female to find another female attractive. It happens sometimes. You have females who mess with females and they classify or identify as straight. I like men. I've never even had a sexual encounter with a female. I've never even kissed another female. I mean, on the cheek, yeah, but not in a sexual way or in a sexual manner. Never. So, saying I'm gay because of this one interaction that you finally got something years later, that's not something you can run with. That's so stupid and dumb. So I think it's a mix of things. Yeah, I think it's the technology and I think she's attractive, but I really think it's the technology, y'all. She's married. I wasn't trying to do anything. I don't have any interest in trying to do anything with her. I would like to get married and have children, and I actually feel like this thing is blocking up my life. I like men. That's why they know it too. That's why they keep trying to do the stuff they do. Like, they were trying to stick certain dudes on top of me. They know I like men. They've been in my brain. They know what they've seen mainly inside of my brain. Aside from this one thing that they're trying to run with. I think it's technological. I mean, that's all I can think. There's only been one other female in my life that I've had an attraction to, and that was years ago in rehab. The girl was an actual model. And this girl could be a model too, because the way she cuts her hair and stuff, and she has strong features, it reminds me of like those African, like she could be an African model, like how she looks. So I don't know, maybe it's just like something about her look or something, but I also think it's the technology. I'm not gonna lie, I really do. I think it's technological. I like men, and she's married. I respect people that have marriages, and even if she wasn't married and I wasn't targeted, I wouldn't do anything. I'm not interested in having, I don't know what word to use. I don't want to be offensive. I'm not interested in having gay sexual encounters. No disrespect if you are gay. I don't care. I've had many gay friends in the past. So that's why I said I want to be careful how I say it, because I don't want to be offensive. I didn't know what word to use. I don't know if I should say homosexual or gay. Is that offensive? Because I don't have an issue with that. I've had friends that are gay, many. But I'm just saying I don't have any interest in having any homosexual encounters, even if there is some sort of attraction there. I'm not gonna lie, I do find her attractive, but I also think technology plays a major role in what was taking place. How the hell all the time I'm daydreaming about men and then randomly just back to back? Like, it was weird. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And they know they haven't seen any activity. They've been in my brain. It's the only female they see and stuff with. And they're trying to run with it, to run back and come back to the moon and back with it. I like men. I want to get married. I want to get out the targeting, and I want to live a normal, productive life. This was just an innocent attraction. I believe technology also plays a part in things. Nothing more than that. There are so many females out there that have had actual interactions with females. I never did. I could have. I've had females hit on me in the past because I'm muscular and I'm athletic. Someone in my close circle witnessed it. Okay? Anyway, I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace out.